good morning and welcome to a bright and early start here for the 52nd running of the Grand Prix de Trois-Rivières. We're in the last chance qualifier for the Chevrolet Urban Challenge. And we've got contact early on. We've gone green here, with the drivers getting through 1 and 2 fairly cleanly. Now there is a little chicane set up as they enter onto this long back straightaway, but we did have a pole dash just one day ago. And it looks like some of the drivers mixed into this group were in that pole dash, so I'm a little confused as to what this event might be. The qualifying format for the Chevrolet Urban Challenge is a little bit different than any of the other series that we have on track here this weekend. We can tell you that David Hébert in the orange 1 is your race leader, followed by Jean-François Leblanc. There's Jeremy St. Louis, who's now dropped down several positions in 5th. Martin Pelletier in the 3P. So thing about modified racing is you tend to get the same numbers on the track at the same time, but they add a letter in. So there will be another 1 car, orange number 1, just like that, as we have Jeremy St. Louis now backwards, and that is in turn number 1. One of the only really hard right-handers on this track. So that's why these dirt modifieds do work so well. You can see they still have an offset. The right side tires still hang outside the bodywork as they come down the straightaway. But most of the corners here on this track are left-handers. Good look at Yannick Ledoux in the number 1, currently running in 6th position. But still, David Hébert out in front of Martin Pelletier, Jean-François Leblanc, Jean-François Tessier in the number 76, and last time we crossed the stripe, St. Louis was in 5th. He was backwards, so moved that car, the 1 of Yannick Ledoux, up into 5th position. Top 4 now all get fairly close together, and it looks like a full course caution on the field at this point. So it'll allow the field to tighten up a little bit. And we get set to go back to green. 13 laps left to be completed here on day 2 of the 52nd running of the Grand Prix de Trois-Rivières. I'm Dave Bradley. Thank you very much for joining us bright and early. This is the first race of the weekend, or the weekend portion. We did have some racing last night. For the Fast Friday, we had the Formula 1600s on track. We had the Super Production Challenge Series and also the Sports Car Championship Canada Series finished things off under the lights last night. And a beautiful display. Those cars look very sharp. Had a great race, too, to close the gates last night. And things got going bright and early. As the 3 of Martin Pelletier, you can see the front wheels dodging back and forth. That's sort of something that is unique to these dirt modifieds. Has to do with the front end geometry and the steering boxes used in these cars. It does not mean that there's anything wrong with that car, but it looks like we're going to line them up 2 by 2. There's 2 laps officially in the books. The drivers just sorting themselves out for positions down the back straightaway in through turn number 6. If you're unfamiliar with this track, if you didn't get a chance to join us yesterday, turn 6, that one that they just maneuvered through, is one of the better passing opportunities on this track for these vehicles and the others that'll be coming up over the course of the day. The next one, turn 8, is also another good passing opportunity, but realistically, when push comes to shove, anywhere on this racetrack you can try and make a pass work. And these modified drivers, they're not road course racers for the most part. I mean, you have some drivers mixed in there who have some NASCAR Pinty Series experience. I'm looking at the 24 of Raphael Assard, who's been very quick all weekend long in practice and qualifying, other on-track sessions. But these drivers don't abide to general rules of road course racing. If there's an opening, they tend to go for it. And these cars are super fun to watch. As the green flag back in the hands of the starter as they make their way onto the front straightaway. It waves. We're back underway. Here in this 15-lap race for the Chevrolet Urban Challenge modifieds, dirt modifieds on an asphalt street circuit, something that started just 1 year ago. The brainchild of promoter Dominic Fougere as the field slides their way through that tight turn number 3 and through the Duplessis gates. Once again, David Hebert in the one GM Paillet sponsored number 1, the orange and white dirt modified, just ahead of Maxime Pelletier, or Martin Pelletier, I should say, in the 3P. And there you can see the drivers, they hang the back end of these things out like they are racing on dirt. So they let the cars float through the turns, and it does seem to work for them. The tires seem to hold up too. Turn 8, that's a fast turn, a lot of runoff area, but the runoff area gets smaller and smaller before ending at a concrete wall. We saw last night in the Super Production Challenge one driver using up too much runoff area and ending up in that wall, flattening the nose of his Lexus. Four laps in, 11 to go now, and field pretty much all single file. You can see some smoke from the front end of your second place driver, Martin Pelletier, possibly brake lockup going into turn number 2 as you come off that difficult right-hander. And again, this track is made up mostly of left-hand turns. Now that smoke is showing down the back straightaway, so that could be something even more significant. Raphael Lessard in the 24 is working up through the field. He's a winner in the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series, so to have him in a modified here today is a special treat, and he has been quick. So far, setting one of the quickest times of the race as he works his way through the field. Now moving around Kevin Parenteau in the 10. And into turn number 8, there he slides way out into the runoff area. You can see the 76 of Tessier doing the same thing. So Lessard has managed to get around the 76 as well. Now he's working on the 1 of Yannick Ledoux. Last time we crossed the stripe was he in 4th position. Lessard was down in 7th, so that's the kind of mover and shaker that Lessard is. That's the car we're watching right now. Something amiss on the front end of the 3P of Martin Pelletier as that car smokes heavily once again. It seems to only do it in the right-hand turn. Turn number 1 at the end of the front straightaway. Now a little bit of smoke showing from the 1 of David Hebert as well. And you can see that one starting to come out the back end. So a few of these drivers did a lot of work to these race cars last night, some even having to change engines, because these engines aren't normally used for right and left-hand turns. So oil pickups, if you haven't changed where the location of the oil pickup as well, could starve the engine of oil. But a lot of them use a dry sump system, and we got problems. This is just after that tire chicane, the 87 of Carl Longo into the wall, and you can see the damage on the bodywork on the right side. That car visited with the tire wall in turn number 3 in practice yesterday. They got it repaired after changing some radius rods in the right front corner. The tire was bent backwards. Now it looks like the left front corner will need some work as well, but this might be his last opportunity at qualifying for one of the final events that'll be held later today. A 25-lap feature at 6:15 coming up to cap today's races. And there you can see a good look at that tire wall, the temporary tire wall. You see the paint on the ground. That's to indicate to the corner workers where they need to set up those tires. And that slows these cars down just a little bit as they head down that long back straightaway and into turn number 6. So that's off of turn number 3. That kink that you're looking at right there is turn 4, and there's a 4A and B as well. There's another 5 kink down the back straightaway that they consider a corner here on this racetrack to make up 11 turns. But realistically, between 3 and 6, it's fairly wide open and fairly straight. Those are just essentially kinks on the racetrack and not really posing too much of a problem. For the modified drivers, that's where you see the tire walls have been set up to slow things down. Well, we continue under caution for that issue involving number 87 of Carl Langlois, and the 28 of Eric Lozier was also involved. You saw him backwards. He was able to refire and get moving once again. 9 laps to go, and caution laps do count. But you can see on the hook again, second time this weekend for the driver of the 87, who hails from Chateauguay, Quebec, a 31-year-old, generally drives in the sportsman division on dirt, out playing with the other modified drivers here in the Chevrolet Urban Challenge as part of the 52nd running of the Grand Prix de Trois-Rivières here this weekend. And what an event this is shaping up to be. Beautiful weather for Fast Friday yesterday, and shaping up to be another hot and sunny day here today. If you are on your way to the racetrack, then do bring or be prepared to have some water, find some shade when you can. But you can see the right front corner is bent again. And that looks to be red paint from the tire wall, I'm going to assume, because we don't have a pink race car out on the racetrack. So if it was contact, it might have been from earlier. But as we told you, the 87 did make contact with the tire wall just right past that camera angle right there through the Duplessis gates in turn number 3. Got in a little bit too hot, tried to slide the back end around. And what happens when you do that, you're really playing with fire, because the back end can over-rotate. And then all of a sudden you don't have that runoff area. You've got a tire wall to meet up with, and that's what's been happening to a few of these drivers as they learn this racetrack. The tire wall has been squared up once again and set back in place. Now they do have that runoff area. They'll put the cones back once the corner workers are finished in that area. They'll put cones up against the wall between the tire wall and the wall. So that is a runoff area. If these drivers get in a little bit too hot, then they can have that option to essentially just run over cones and miss the chicane. They can't improve their position. If they do, they have to give it back on the racetrack or face a penalty. And it looks like the white flag being displayed in turn number 6. So we will be going green the next time we pass the stripe, as the 87 towing back to pit lane at this point. So he'll reach pit lane just after the field of cars does as well. Now we've got more issues. And it looks like for some reason the 35B, that's Frederic Belmar, he's also a driver who has visited the wall in turn number 3 in practice earlier on this weekend, suffering some damage to the front end of that race car. And now it looks like it's come to a rest against a concrete wall. So he's refiring. That's going to scuttle any hopes at a restart for this time. Belmar able to refire. Looks like all wheels are pointed in the right direction. So whatever happened with that car, now we've got another car off the pace. And it looks like this one is going to reach the halfway mark under caution. Cross flags for the drivers as they make their way past the flag stand. You see the shakes on several of these cars. Again, that is something that is seen frequently on these dirt modifieds. Usually under low speeds on a dirt track, you can't really pick it up that easily. Here on the asphalt track, everything is accentuated because the tires stick so much better. Frédéric Bellemare is going to catch up to the pack. He was another car that was seen slowing down the speedway. He's catching up. He's on his horse, trying to regroup and get to the back of the pack as the field still under caution. And just waiting to hear from race control if this will be the opportunity we have to go back to green. The field will double up down the back straightaway. So in turn number 6, that's where they get the indication from that corner marshal. If the white flag is waving, that means we are going back to green this time around. So it should be okay now. Still a full waved caution in that corner. Now the white is waved as well, so they'll be told in their receivers that this will be green. David Hébert and Martin Pelletier, the 1 and the 3P, that is your front row. You can see Bellemare in the 35 did manage to catch back up after making contact with the wall, oddly enough, under caution. So something happened. Maybe the steering wheel came off. That is always a possibility. It's a hair-raising possibility for a driver when you're behind the wheel and you go to grab the wheel and it literally comes off in your hand, so you have to jump on the brake fairly hard. But contact was fairly slight for the 35B. And again, Bellemare will tag on to the fields as they work their way. These are the slow, twisty bits, so the most technical points of this racetrack through turns 9, 10, and 11 and on to the straightaway, and that's where you have to try and make your way through. That turn 11 really dictates your speed for the front straightaway. As we see the flag stand and we see a green flag once again. We're back underway with 6 laps remaining in this LCQ for the dirt modified. So we have contact in turn number 1. Everybody slows up just a little bit, but we stay green. And again, these cars don't have a full transmission like a Pinty Series car or any of the other vehicles that we've seen. Too wide through turn number 3 with Raphael Lessard up on the outside. That's some heads-up driving from him and Yannick Ledoux as they're able to keep straight on the exit to turn number 3. Hats off to those two drivers. But look at this start in through turn number 2, and it looks like the 3P gets stuffed against the inside wall as they went 3 wide in turn number 2, and that really cost the 3P of Pelletier. He fell down the race running order, and now you can see something is fully broken. And Pelletier comes to a rest up against the wall. And once again, we're under a full course caution. And you knew this race was going to have some fireworks. And it looks like that's heading down into turn number 3. So he made contact with the wall and really getting stuffed into the wall from both the 24 and the 1, who were along the outside and essentially ran the 3 out of room on the inside. He was trying to stay with them because he had the position on the inside of the corner. Unfortunately, there's no runoff, and when the room disappeared, he unfortunately got stuffed into the wall and obviously broke something in the front end of that. Number 3P comes to a rest on the entrance to turn number 3. And that time past the stripe, so this will have to be a quick cleanup. With 5 laps to go as they cross the start-finish line that time. David Hébert still in control. Now it's Jean-Francois Leblanc in the 721. And Raphael Lessard, Yannick Ledoux, and Kevin Parenteau, the 24, the 1, and the 10. That's your top 5 as it sits on the racetrack right now. So a lot of these drivers, if you're familiar with dirt track racing and the 358 modifieds, the sportsman classes that run in Eastern Ontario and all the way through Quebec, a lot of these drivers will be familiar names. You have David Hébert, Jean-Francois Leblanc. You have drivers that'll be out a little bit later on today, like Cedric Gauvreau. But then you have some interlopers mixed in amongst the group. The 24 of Raphael Lessard is one of them. Also Alex Tagliani, Marc-Antoine Cameron, Dexter Stacy runs in the Pinty Series as well. And JP Bergeron will be behind the wheel of one of these modifieds as well. And then some of those drivers have had some experience on dirt tracks. But the level of interest from the drivers from last year compared to this year, so the entrant list got about 10 names longer just after they watched last year and said, wait a second, maybe it's not going to be a mess that we thought it was going to be. Peltier is still in his race car. Now he's hopping out. It appears to be okay. The damage pretty much just to the front end of that race car. A little difficult to get out that side as the drivers normally exit the left side of the race car. The driver sits in a central location. You can see everything is set up for dirt track racing, and that means a higher center of gravity. Look at where the fuel cell is on that car compared to where a fuel cell would be on a general, even just an oval track racer that races on asphalt. You try to get the center of gravity really low on an asphalt car, either it's a road course or an oval course car. And you don't want the car to flip-flop too much. Essentially set the suspension up so it's fairly solid, fairly rigid. What these drivers have done is completely buck the trend. They do it something completely differently, and they just leave a lot of the setups in. They change a few things, but not really major changes to chassis or anything like that. Essentially, they can take this car and go and run it a dirt track tonight if they want to, and not have to change too much. A few shocks and springs, and that's about it. Even the tires are dirt track tires. You can see the treaded Hoosiers on these cars. And they're trying to keep the heat in those tires. They actually hold up very, very well, surprisingly so, because a tire that's made for a dirt track, you don't think it would stick very well on an asphalt track, or at least if it did stick, it wouldn't stick for very long. The rubber would wear off fairly quickly. That hasn't been the case as we saw last year, and we're seeing again this year. As a matter of fact, after about 4 laps yesterday, a caution was thrown in practice. The drivers came down pit lane. We got a good look at those tires, and they still have the new nubs on that you would get on your street tire. So it gives you an indication of how little wear is seen on these Hoosier tires over the course of this event. It looks like the white flag being shown in turn number 6, so we might get a restart this time. The 3P of Peltier is on the hook and on the way back to pit lane. His race is done early, though. We are lined up single file this time. The drivers not doing the 2x2 start. 4 laps to go officially, as these caution laps have counted. We've had a couple lengthy caution periods and no restart this time, so it'll be another, at least one more lap of caution, as the 3P still headed back to pit lane. Almost there, getting towards turn 6, and there you can see the damage to the left front corner after coming together with the inside retaining wall in turn number 2. So Martin Peltier in the 3P joins Carl Langnon in the 87 as cars officially retired from this event. And we'll have a 3-lap dash for cash. We can tell you the quickest time put in so far this race. He is by the number 24, Raphael Lessard, a 1:14.6. That's about a full second quicker than anybody else on the racetrack at this point. David Hebert is at a 1:15.4. He's led since the drop of the green. He's been out in front in that clean air as well. Lessard has been fighting all day or all race long through the field. LeBlanc's been quick as well in the 7:21. A 15.8 is his quickest lap. You see that 51 of Vincent Berthume. He's in 8th position, again trying to keep the heat in the tires. He's another driver who had some problems in qualifying yesterday. Another driver hit the wall in front of him, and then he came crashing in afterwards. Not too much damage to that car, and the beauty about these cars is there are a lot of body work on the outside, so it looks bad initially, and then things get fixed up fairly quickly in the paddock area. The 10 of Kevin Parenteau actually slapped a concrete wall during his qualifying session, and he continued on. And steadfast time of the session for him on the last lap. So it sounded awful. It looked pretty bad, but managed to sort out pretty good for the driver of the 10, as he's now sitting in 5th spot right now. As the field lines up one after another onto the front straightaway, and we're back to green. There'll be a 2-lap dash to settle this one. And it looks like Lessard gets to the inside in turn number 1, kicks the modified sideways. Look at LeBlanc way on the outside. Now there's a battle for the lead. David Hebert has a back bumper filled with the 24 of Raphael Lessard. These two cars have stretched out a bit of a gap on the rest of the field. The draft does work. Now they're working through that chicane just out of camera range. Lessard ducks to the inside. Ahead of steam as they'll work their way through turn number 6. That's a good passing opportunity, and Lessard's going to take it. Will he get too deep? No, he gets hard on the brakes. Eases his way through that turn, and new race leader, the 24 of Raphael Lessard. Still is LeBlanc holding down 3rd spot, although losing touch with your race leaders just a little bit. Lessard will see the white flag as they work their way through turn number 10. That's the only other right-hander on this racetrack. Look at Hebert, though. He got a good run out of turn 11. Ledoux now in the 1 is up into 3rd spot, and here comes Parenteau in the 10 at the line. He'll be marked in 4th. So the 721 of JF LeBlanc starts to slide back just a little bit into 5th position. With still the 24, Raphael Lessard, your race leader, followed by David Hebert, Yannick Ledoux, Kevin Parenteau, and Jean-Francois LeBlanc through that chicane, the tire wall chicane. In between, and we've got a car around. That looks to be in turn number 1, so this is not going to affect the outcome, as we'll see the checkered flag before we reach that point. Lessard now opening up a gap on the number 1 of David Hebert. The race is for 3rd between Parenteau and Yannick Ledoux, with JF LeBlanc just there as well. Look at how smooth the 24 car is. Started towards the back of this field. Made his way up to the front thanks to a late race restart, and he will reach the checkered flag first. The win goes to the 24 of Raphael Lessard. 2nd place to David Hebert. Yannick Ledoux will hold on to 3rd, followed by Kevin Parenteau and Jean-Francois LeBlanc. That is your top 5. Daniel Demare, Francois Bellemare, Vincent Berthume in the 51. We talked about him. He'll hold on to 8th spot. Jean-Francois Tessier in the 76. And Eric Lozier, who actually had a spin earlier on this race, comes back for 10th. So a good comeback for the driver of the number 28, finishing in the top 10. 72, you saw him backwards. That was Brandon Beauregard. He'll drop to 16th on the running order as he'll come through and complete his laps. But there's been the class of the field all weekend long. He's been quick in the time sheets in practice, qualifying, and now here in this LCQ. The top 10, as we mentioned, Lessard, Hebert, Ledoux, Parenteau, LeBlanc, Demare, Bellemare, Berthume, Tessier, and Lozier. That is your top 10 here in the Chevrolet Urban Challenge, the dirt modifieds here on the asphalt at the Grand Prix de Trois-Rivières. In what started out as a trial run last year, and really caught on fairly quickly, just because of the uniqueness of it and the excitement on track for those drivers and for those teams. And as we do, a quick highlight package, and there you can see the start was a little bit messy at times. We had an early caution period, and then a full restart side by side as they thundered off into turn number 1, and that led to more problems. The 95 had a quick spin. That was Felix Murray. So we tried it once more, and then Pelletier had a great run going until he didn't. Early on was sitting in 3rd spot, chasing the race leader, David Hebert. Showed some smoke, though, a couple of times from that left front corner, so he might have been having some braking issues. Then we had this issue just off of corner number 2, catching the tire wall. A couple of drivers then into the retaining wall. So we set him again, and this was one of the main problems, and you can see it wasn't long after Pelletier made contact with that inside wall that he came to a rest against the inside wall heading towards turn number 3. That sent out the safety car one more time, and then this couple last dash for cash, and it was the 24 of Raphael Lessard who managed to get into 2nd in turn number 1, and then set his sights on your race leader, David Hebert, passing him down the back straightaway into turn number 6. Again, that's one of the best passing opportunities for any division here at the Grand Prix de Trois-Rivières. Little bit of runoff room at the back end, and he raced his way to the checkered flag here in the Chevrolet Urban Challenge, beating out David Hebert to the line in the GM Paillet number 1. So Raphael Lessard, first winner of the day here on Saturday at the Grand Prix de Trois-Rivières. There you see him in car as he'll be speaking with the French stream fairly shortly. Likely he's going to hop out here. Believe so in just a second. The next race on track will be Sports Car Championship Canada, presented by Michelin.
Chance hier, on part à la queue pour la consolation. Mais quelle remontée de ta part, t'avais vraiment le couteau entre les dents.
Oh ouais, ça a été une remontée assez clean par exemple. Je profitais des erreurs des autres pilotes. À la fin, j'ai tout donné. Je savais qu'on allait peut-être avoir un.
So Raphael Lessard saying that he had some mechanical issues. They had to make some major changes to that car, and that's what landed him in this last chance qualifier. But he said it was a pretty clean race. Took advantage of the errors from the drivers in front of him. But it gives him a good idea of what kind of car he'll have for the final, the 25-lap final, coming up a little bit later on today to cap off today's activities. It'll be a 6:15 start, the final for the Chevrolet Urban Challenge. He says it's a tough track to pass on in these cars. He seemed to make it look easy at times. But it'll be an exciting race for these cars and for these drivers. 25 laps, and we'll be keeping an eye on the man they call the outsider. Raphael Lessard, of course, not a driver known for running on dirt, but he's taken to these cars very, very well here at the Grand Prix de Trois-Rivières. We'll be back with the Sports Car Championship Canada.
Fait qu'on peut pas...
Bonjour, bonjour, bonjour. How are you?
On peut parler de nos 3 pilotes.
On peut parler des 3 premiers.
De l'accident d'hier, puis la performance de Jocelyn Vert qui est monté sur le podium.
Ouais. L'accident d'hier, je pense pas que Bob Atwell est là, de toute façon. Donc, Bob Atwell n'est pas là.
Alors, c'est ça. Yep. Alors, nous sommes de retour sur le site du Grand Prix de Trois-Rivières pour vous présenter dans quelques
Hello and welcome
instants
back to the 52nd running of the Grand Prix de Trois-Rivières. I'm Dave Bradley, not the people on the screen. That is the folks doing the French stream for us here this weekend in the booth and prepared to bring to you the Sports Car Championship Canada presented by Michelin. And what a race we had last night, a race that started
Je pense peut-être à une volonté de
during
revanche de la
dusk,
part de Zachary
ended
Vanier, le
in
pilote de la
complete
Mercedes,
darkness,
pardon,
and
de
it
la
actually
McLaren,
ended
numéro 9,
under a
qui
red
luttait contre les
flag,
deux
and
Mercedes,
time
celle de
eventually
Romain Monti et de
ran
Charles
out
Robin. Donc, je
for
pense que ces
the
3 voitures-là,
teams,
c'est des
the
voitures
88
de
of
type
Bob
FIA
Trell making
GT4,
heavy
donc des voitures
contact
très
in that
puissantes,
Hyundai Elantra
voitures
N,
beaucoup de
and
technologie également
unfortunately
très
ending
spectaculaires.
his
Donc, faut
event
s'attendre à une
early,
nouvelle
that
bataille
car
entre ces
too
3 pilotes
badly
pour la
damaged to
Et très
be
rapidement,
repaired to
il y a eu un
return
malheureux
to
accident. Bob
racing
Atwell,
action
évidemment,
here
il sera pas de
today,
retour
so the
aujourd'hui.
88 of
Effectivement,
Bob
ça, c'est la
Trell
classe
will
TCR.
not
Bob
make
Atwell
the
forfait
call.
aujourd'hui.
Merci Philippe.
We
Et
can tell you
là-dessus,
that
allons,
the
cérémonie d'avant-course avec Monsieur
results
François Roy.
from yesterday, the race overall won by the 57 of Romain Monti as we head down trackside for today's command.
Accueillons du cabinet d'avocat Laverie, Monsieur Yves Rochelot. Pilote, moteur, drivers, start your engine.
And there's the call for the drivers to fire them up here on the front straightaway. Again, if you missed last night's racing, the FEL Sports Car Championship Canada presented by Michelin consists of 2 different classes running on the track at the same time. And it looks like the timing and scoring crew trying to fix up the transponder on the number 9 of Zachary Vanier. Been having some issues with that transponder pretty much all weekend long, but he has been counted. As a matter of fact, finished in 2nd spot yesterday. Monti, Vanier, Charles Robin, and that was your top 4 in the GT4 class. The TCR class won by Jeremy Daniel. Tom Kwok in the 55 making his first start of the season here at the GP3R. He came 2nd. Jocelyn Hébert in the 89, yet another podium, and even 25 podiums for the driver of the 89. Just a fantastic result for the man they call Doc. Bob Attrell classified as 7th. And then it was Gary Kwok, Connor Attrell, Ron Tomlinson, Jean-Francois Evie, Dean Baker, Quinn Attrell, Richard Boak, Gilles Nadeau, and Justin DiBenedetto had something go south in the steering. Something didn't feel right, so he pulled down pit lane and not classified at the end of the race. So he will, believe he will make the start here today. Yeah, he's out on track right now. So whatever it was problematic on that car has been fixed overnight. They didn't have much time to do a lot of the work to these race cars. Again, that race finishing in the darkness, 9 o'clock last night, back on track for 10:25. So you understand how much these drivers and these crews had to work on their race cars, and the drivers had to rehydrate, get as much fuel back in their system, because we're getting set for another 40-minute timed race here for the Sports Car Championship Canada presented by Michelin. So we mentioned the 2 different classes, GT4 mixed in with the TCR class. The GT4s, the Mercedes, the McLarens that you see at the front of the field. There's also a Porsche driven by Gilles Nadeau. Those are V8 powered rear wheel drive cars. The Mercedes twin turbos, the McLaren packing a lot of horsepower, a mid-engine car, which is pretty interesting to see compared to the front engine Mercedes. Different car combinations, which means the cars are quicker in different sectors of the track. It makes for a very interesting race, but the cars up front, the Mercedes and McLarens, turning about 500 horsepower. The TCR cars just in behind. There's the 10 and the 21 pair of teammates, 2022 Audi RS3s. But the TCR class is a homologated class. They can be run anywhere around the world. And they're pushing about 400 horsepower, turbocharged 4-cylinder engines, but very, very light, very nimble cars. And as a matter of fact, when caught in traffic, these TCR cars will turn laps that are almost as quick as the GT4 class cars. So we saw the 10 of Jeremy Daniel hanging with the leaders for quite a distance in yesterday's 40-minute timed race as the field lines up 2 by 2. So just one warm-up lap, no gap start. So it's where you qualified is where you start. A mix of GT4 and TCR class cars as they work their way through turn 9, now into turn 10, and they'll file up tightly 2 by 2 and make their way onto the front straightaway, looking for the green. And we're underway here in the Sports Car Championship Canada, presented by Michelin. And you saw it was the 66 of Kwok that did not get off the line very quickly. Caused a bit of a mess down deeper in the field as everybody works their way cleanly through turn number 1. Romain Monti out of France, driving in his first races here in the Sports Car Championship Canada, behind the wheel of that Mercedes AMG. He's your early leader down the back straightaway. Look who he has in tow, though. Zachary Vanier, a young, hungry driver, driving out of the Pfaff Motorsports shop in that brand new McLaren. And then Charles Robin, who's been steady Eddie so far in this series in 2022. Sticking with the leaders, running in third where he pretty much stayed all race long yesterday, but he's been right there within striking distance. JF Eby finished well down the running order yesterday, but that was just unfortunate because he had to take the runoff area in turn number 6, and that cost him a full lap to the field, and he could not make up that distance because we didn't have a full course caution until right at the end. So he turned some quick laps. That's why he's qualified right behind his teammates in the 21. But Jeremy Daniel has already opened up a bit of a gap on his teammate in second spot there in the TCR class, just behind this race for the overall lead. But the battle is for second right now between Zachary Vanier and Charles Robin. Looks like Romain Monti has managed to open up a little bit of a gap in the early going. A quick time right away out of the box, so 1:11.5 for the factory Mercedes driver out of France. Again, making his first start in that Sodi card backed entry out of the Really Motorsports trailer. And there you can see, look at the TCR car closing on this battle for second as the 56 goes to the inside, turn number 9. Now the 9 of Zachary Vanier will have the advantage in 10, so he manages to hold off that challenge. But look as they head on to the front straightaway. There will be a draft into turn number 1. Good look at Dean Baker in the 52, battling there with Connor Attrell and the 48 of Ron Tomlinson. Tomlinson having a pretty good run in the early going in that Audi. Connor Attrell in the 80 really had a solid run yesterday, as a matter of fact, finishing inside the top 5, 9th overall in that Hyundai Racing Canada number 80, the Veloster. Quinn Attrell, his brother, had no practice, no qualifying, but still managed to gain a few spots towards the end of that race. The 86 is now in 12th in this race, so keep an eye on that driver now that he has a little bit of confidence and a little bit of experience on the track. But here comes Connor Attrell, a great battle here in the TCR class. Again, Tomlinson 8th overall. He's in 5th in class, behind the 89 of Jocelyn Hébert. Dean Baker had some issues with the runoff area yesterday as well. but he's managed to put together a couple good solid laps here in the early going. So Monty now opens up a bit of a gap on the rest of the field. This battle in TCR is the one we've been watching. It's one of the closest second place dice between Zachary Vanier and Charles Robin, as we saw those two drivers go at each other pretty much all race long. And there you can see as the TCR battle starts to get a little bit closer. There's Monty, your overall race leader in the 57. Here comes Zachary Vanier in the McLaren, the number 9. He's second. Then Charles Robin. Then you have Jeremy Daniel tagged right onto that dice. So this shorter track here at the Grand Prix de Trois-Rivières really plays well to the TCR cars and their ability to keep pace with the GT4, the more powerful GT4s. Connor Luttrell on the exit of turn number 8 takes a look to the inside. There's contact in turn number 9 as Tomlinson didn't see him there. Just light contact. Now Connor Luttrell will pass and complete that pass into turn number 10. He had the spot, didn't see, or Tomlinson likely didn't see him there as he came down to take his normal racing line and had to back off. Well, Connor Luttrell moves up to 8th overall, now 4th in class, or 5th in class behind the 89 of Jocelyn Hébert. This battle for 2nd overall, though, still very, very close between the number 9 of Zachary Vanier and the 56 of Charles Robin. 10 of Jeremy Daniel, the leader in the TCR class, is still hanging in there. And we can tell you that the gap now at the front is just over 3 seconds, 3.3 seconds from Romain Monty back to the number 9 of Zachary Vanier. This is a battle for the final podium position in the TCR class. Justin Di Benedetto in the 4, coming under heavy pressure from the king of Trois-Rivières, Jocelyn Hébert. 25 podium finishes in his career here at the Grand Prix de Trois-Rivières, looking for one more here today after finishing on the 3rd step of the podium just one race ago. Driver of the 89 looking to do it again here today. Good look at the 21 of Jean-Francois Yvie as he chases his teammate. But look at Daniel. He's not quite nosing it out. He knows he doesn't have the power to make a pass into turn number 6 around those GT4 class cars. But if they do make a mistake or if they start dicing amongst themselves, he has the opportunity to climb the overall ladder. Sitting in 4th overall is the driver of the 10. And you can see the drivers very tidy in turn number 8 compared to the modifieds that were out just a short time ago. The officials in the FEL Sports Car Championship Canada saying turn number 8 is where the drivers will be watched to adhere to track limits. Don't go 4 wheels into that green paint or you will be penalized. So that means the drivers have to keep it tucked pretty cleanly to the inside of turn number 8, not try to keep things flowing too far to the outside. But this battle is for 3rd in class, a good one. Justin Di Benedetto in the Audi along with the Honda Civic driven by Jocelyn Hébert. Hébert not making a lot of starts so far here in the 2022 season for the Sports Car Championship Canada Series. But the ones he's making are counting for sure. Again, he finished on the podium one night ago behind the wheel of that Honda Civic FK8. And now giving everything Justin Di Benedetto can handle in the Audi RS3. Di Benedetto Hyundai Veloster. Have a look. There goes Hébert on the exit of turn number 8 into turn number 9. He gets alongside, but if you can't complete the pass in turn number 9, that allows Justin Di Benedetto, who has the advantage in turn number 10, to muscle out the move and hang on to third spot in class, 6th overall in the TCRs. Again, TCRs are a difficult car to drive. A lot of the drivers will tell you they don't have a lot of downforce. They do have a splitter. They do have that back tail wing that provides some rear downforce, but a front wheel drive car, essentially the back wheels are just along for the ride. They don't really do much as far as braking goes or do nothing as far as getting the power to the ground. So some of these drivers like to run it very, very loose, kick the back end of the car out sideways, and then hammer on the gas and allow the car to float through the corners. But when it comes to passing, it can get a little dicey at times. You saw the 89 lock up as he tried to make a move on the 4 of Justin DiBenedetto. The 80 of Connor Luttrell right there. Dean Baker's not too far behind as well in the number 52, so hats off to that driver. Having a good run here today out of the Tomlinson Motorsports shop, driving the 2019 Audi RS3. But there is your overall race leader, and comfortably at the front of the fields. A guest driver for the weekend, the really auto sports shop, the really racing shop, Romain Monti. That's a quick lap of the day so far, about 0.3 of a second quicker than the quick lap laid down by the number 9 of Zachary Vanier. And the difference is now 4.6 seconds between first and second place. Charles Robin in the 56 holding down third, but he too is losing touch with the number 9 of Zachary Vanier, who starts to settle down a little bit, click off some pretty quick laps behind the wheel of that McLaren. The 570S, sponsored by Technica Mining out of the Pfaff Autosports shop. The second really racing entry is the driver of the 56, Charles Robin, a 2020 Mercedes AMG. So two very, very new race cars. You can see this race not quite as close as the one we had last night, but a lot of variables in that one, including the darkness, the cooling racetrack, and setups that the drivers had worked on all afternoon may not have worked quite as well. Here comes Hebert, the exit of turn number 6 through that turn 7 kink, and looking again in turn number 8. This time it's DiBenedetto who locks up a little bit into the runoff area. Hebert again goes to the inside in turn number 9. Will he make it stick? This time he will, as DiBenedetto has to relinquish that position in turn number 10. Not alongside as he was the first time, so mark the 89 into third spot in the TCR class, up to 6th place overall here in the race. Still, your overall race leader is Romain Monti in the 57, the Mercedes AMG, followed by Zachary Vanier, Charles Robin. That's your top 3 in the GT4 class, and Jeremy Daniel, Jean-Francois Evy, and Jocelyn Hebert now your top 3 in the TCR class. We can tell you that Daniel is still keeping pace with those GT4 class cars, although he is a little bit further behind. He's still only about a 1.5 seconds further back, now 2 seconds back of the 56 of Charles Robin for third place overall. But a great drive put in by the number 10 of Jeremy Daniel. Jean-Francois Evy really come back strong here on this second race for the Sports Car Championship Canada. Now 2.5 seconds back of Jeremy Daniel. An improvement of 1 position from his starting place here in today's race. But the 20-year Honda sponsored entry of Jocelyn Hebert, fan favorite here, local driver. As we mentioned, 25 career podiums in a variety of different disciplines here at the Grand Prix de Trois-Rivières. And it looks like he's able to stretch out a bit of a gap now on Justin DiBenedetto, who's going to come into the clutches of Connor Luttrell very, very shortly in that Hyundai Veloster. Again, Connor Trell has been one of those drivers that has been quietly floating under the radar. Not the best qualifier, and that's what really sort of hampers him come race time. If he can really get his qualifying program sorted out, that driver will be one to watch for sure. We know the car is sorted. It's been in the series for a couple of years. It's a 2019 Hyundai Veloster N. It was previously campaigned by his father, Bob Trell. So we know it's a good car, and the driver, who is gaining experience with each turn of a lap, is showing great racecraft. But he really has to come back through the field and try and gain spots. To give you an idea, Connor Trell has improved his position by 6 places already in this race. He is the biggest mover and shaker on the morning so far. Battle is heating up for second overall. Second. Mercedes taking a peek on the outside of turn 11. Cannot put a run together for turn number 1, but 2 different lines through turn number 1, and that really benefits the 56 of Charles Robin. Robin and Zachary Vanier. Robin in the orange Sodi Kart, SH Karting sponsored Really Racing Mercedes AMG. Chasing the number 9 of Zachary Vanier. 2 very different makes of cars, obviously, but different platforms as well. A mid-engine McLaren leading a front-engined Mercedes AMG, and the engineers on the Mercedes telling me that is essentially a GT3 car that has been detuned a little bit. So it is a twin-turbo V8 rear-wheel drive Mercedes. And the McLaren obviously comes factory with about 700 horsepower, so that has to be detuned to meet the rules here in the Sports Car Championship Canada Series. As you see, Quinnitrell now with the 55 of Tom Kwok just in behind. Ron Tomlinson just ahead. So this all a battle for position. 9th, 10th, and 11th overall. And it's 6th, 7th, and 8th in class in the TCR class. But Quinnitrell is another driver who had to start way back in the field. Another driver who has improved 6 positions from his starting spot on the field. He unfortunately had mechanical issues on that Hyundai i30N yesterday, and they had to get it sorted, so he missed qualifying, missed most of practice as well. So he only turned his first laps in the darkness last night. So this is a very different track and a very different scenario for the driver out of Toronto. You can see that hatchback is working pretty well as he chases the Audi just ahead. Ron Tomlinson was at one point inside almost a podium position. It has slid back over the course of this race, nearing the halfway mark now with 18.5 minutes completed. Still 21.5 minutes left in this 40-minute timed race. And Romain Monti, as we mentioned, well out in front. 7.2 seconds the last time they crossed the stripe was the margin at the front of the pack. And if you've watched the series in the past and you haven't heard of Romain Monti, well, he's a factory Mercedes driver making his first start here at the Grand Prix de Trois-Rivières from France. And obviously it didn't take long to learn this track. He knows the cars very well, being a factory Mercedes driver. Took him a little bit to learn the track, but once he did, he gained confidence. And yesterday in the post-race interview, he admitted all he was doing was just waiting, running in second, and seeing where he was quicker than Zachary Vanier, eventually taking advantage in turn number 2, passing the youngster and going on to the victory as we hit the halfway mark. There is your race leader in the Sodi Kart backed number 57, and there is the gap he has at the front of the field. This battle for second spot heating up once again. Zachary Vanier, Charles Robin separated by about 0.4 of a second the last time they crossed the stripe. Jeremy Daniel has lost touch with that group, though, sitting in 4th place overall, first in the TCR class. So he's about 5.2 seconds back as the leaders have worked through lap traffic. Gilles Nadeau in another GT4 car, the only Porsche in the fields. Now a lap down to your race leaders, but one of the gentleman drivers, and pretty heads up. He learned last night that the leaders will come through, and they tend to come through in packs, so he opts out of the way. So we come back to this battle between Tomlinson, Quinnitrell in the 86, and the 55 of Tom Kwok. Looks like Quinnitrell is just looking for that advantage. Thought about doing it in turn number 2. The gap was not there. Doesn't quite get through turn number 3 as cleanly as Ron Tomlinson does, and that costs him down this straightaway. So those kinks do count as corners, and we head into turn number 6 as a braking opportunity presents itself. See the 55 of Tom Kwok poke the nose of that Honda Civic just to get in the mirrors. He really didn't have an opportunity to pass the 86 of Quinnitrell, but he just wants to get those headlights in that mirror of the number 86 and try and rattle the driver in front of him, potentially making the driver overthink that braking corners. Here comes the 9 and the 56. Zach Vanier and Charles Robin, they maneuver through turn number 6, and again Robin not quite there to make a passing opportunity. There's the gap back to 4th place overall and first in the TCR class. Jeremy Daniel is having a quiet Saturday morning drive all by himself. He's got his teammate Jean-Francois Avey just in behind. Jocelyn Hebert rounds out the podium positions in the TCR class. But Robin looks a little bit cleaner through 9, 10, and 11 and into turn number 1. He's poked his nose a little bit into turn number 2, and that's where Vanier lost his time and lost the lead in the race last night. As the leaders working through lap traffic, that's Hebert, goes around the 66 of Gary Kwok. Kwok is a lap down to your race leaders. And there's the gap he's built up now on the 4 of Justin DiBenedetto and Connor Trell. Trell's been all over the back end of that number 4. Pretty much from the midpoint of this race as Hebert bounces across that curbing. Have to be careful so as to not break any suspension pieces on that car, because that sausage curb is a fairly significant bump for these drivers. And of course, race officials will be watching for track limits as well. Single file down the straightaway. Benedetto leading Connor Trell. There is Hebert just ahead. Gary Kwok in the 66, a lap down to this group. A little bit tidier through turn number 6 is Connor Trell, so that gains him some real estate on the racetrack as he continues to chase Justin DiBenedetto. Benedetto just trying to complete all the laps here today. Get a finish under his belt. That's what he wants to do. A driver who graduated from the Nissan Sentra Cup 1 year ago. Driving the Game Lancer Audi RS3. What's beautiful about this series is the variety of makes and manufacturers represented. Look at, in this TCR class, you have a Audi, Hyundai, Honda, all together on the racetrack, all fit the same rules, and all able to run as close as they are on the racetrack. A balance of performance added to these cars to keep them all equally matched depending on years and horsepower ratings. So you have the 2022 model driven by Jeremy Daniel as that 56 really racing entry of Charles Robin takes a look in turn number 1, and again it's just to try and fill the mirrors of the number 9 of Zachary Vanier as they work through turn 2. Now the Duplessis gates and turn number 3. That is really a single file turn for these sports cars here in this class. You have to be very, very sure about the driver you're racing against if you want to try and attempt to pass through there, but in all likelihood it's not going to end well, because look at the width of that McLaren, look at the width of the Mercedes behind it. You cannot physically fit two cars side by side through there. The TCR class cars may be able to, but it'll be dicey and likely end in catastrophe in the tire wall for one of the drivers involved. So Connor Attrell floats it through turn number 2, now single file in turn number 3, and this is where he needs that drive off that Di Benedetto has been getting. Connor Attrell hasn't been quite as good. Now he is a little bit closer down the back straightaway. He's caught the draft, but Di Benedetto taking that defensive line on the inside in turn number 6. So he'll slow things down. Connor Attrell just in behind in the 80. Will keep touch. Now turn 7, the kink. Attrell gets to the inside, but Di Benedetto will have the inside lane for turn number 8. And that holds off the challenge from the 80 of Connor Attrell. He'll tuck back in line, single file, that tight number 9. That is a passing opportunity we've seen on a couple of occasions here today already. That's where Di Benedetto gave up the podium position he had to Jocelyn Hebert in the 89. And now he's trying to hang on to 4th. .5 minutes left to go here in this 40-minute timed race. There's battles all over the racetrack. Some are for position, including this one, the 48 of Ron Tomlinson and the 55 of Tom Kwok. As looks like something has happened to the other driver that was involved in that fight for several laps. Quinn Attrell off the pace. And he's 1 lap down to the leaders now, so I don't believe he has crossed the stripe. So something has just gone amiss on the number 86 of Quinn Attrell. See if we can get an update on that driver. He has had several mechanical problems over the course of the weekend in that Hyundai Racing Canada Quaker State backed entry. And hopefully it's just something minor and the crew will be able to get it sorted and get him back out into this race. He still is marked in 11th, is Quinn Attrell, but you can see the leaders now coming up on that dice. Rome Monti on the same straightaway as the fight continues for 4th in the TCR class. 7th place overall. Justin Di Benedetto floats it out on the straightaway. This is an opportunity for Connor Attrell. He gets alongside into the braking zone. Turn number 6, so 1 mistake by Justin Di Benedetto on the exit of turn number 2. And that's going to cost him into turn number 6. Or turn number 3, I should say. That's where the mistake happened for the driver of the 4, and it equaled a completed pass in turn number 6 for Connor Attrell. That's good patience from the driver of the Hyundai Canada Racing, Hyundai Veloster, and the driver of the number 80, Connor Attrell, up to 7th place overall, so that'll put him 4th in the TCR class. Improving an incredible 7 positions from his initial start spot on the grid earlier on today. Hats off to Connor Attrell. The most cars passed, I think, all weekend, because he did a lot of passing yesterday as well. I think he improved his position about 5 yesterday or last night, and now he's done it even better here today. And Connor Attrell is actually turning laps quicker than the car in front of him, the 89 of Jocelyn Hebert, but will he run out of time? Hebert with about a 5-second lead on the 80 of Connor Attrell for that final podium position in the TCR class. This is your overall race leader, though, the 57 of Rome Monti, driving the Really Racing Sodi Kart-backed Mercedes. And you can't even see Zach Vanier in the distance anymore as he works around Tomlinson, hopped the curb and needed that runoff area. As he let the leader go through, the driver of the 48 was still in that dice with the 55 of Tom Kwok, let the leader go through, and then almost had everything go horribly wrong in turn number 8. He bounced off the curb. There is Quinnitrell, so he's back on track, whatever happened. As Jeremy Daniel in the 10, he's the leader in the TCR class. He'll put a lap down on Quinnitrell, who's 11th overall. 1 lap down to your race leader. So that's your 4th place overall, the 10 of Jeremy Daniel, and the driver just in behind is Quinnitrell in the Hyundai Racing Canada Quaker State backed entry, who is a lap down, currently sitting in 11th spot. So the producer's just giving us a look here now of your race leader here in the TCR class, because it really has been sort of an easy run, if you want to call it an easy run, for the driver of that 2022 Audi. Jeremy Daniel, or the 2021 Audi, I should say. Jeremy Daniel, your points leader coming into this event, and has been able to stretch it after finishing on the top step of the podium yesterday in the TCR class, and now leads it once again here today. That's the 9 of Zachary Vanier. Another lap complete as we're under 10 minutes to go. As a matter of fact, under 9 minutes to go now in this 40-minute timed race, with Charles Robin in his shadow in turn number 2. This is one of the best battles on track, too. Half a second separated those two drivers the last time they crossed the stripe. Beautiful looking race cars, all very well prepared here in the FEL Sports Car Championship Canada, presented by Michelin. And of course, Hyundai Racing Canada, big supporters of the series, providing a fabulous looking pace car, another Hyundai Elantra, just like the one normally campaigned by Bob Attrell. Unfortunately, Bob having some big issues last night, coming together with the wall, both front and back damage, and the damage just too great to get repaired for today's race. But this could present an opportunity for Charles Robin as the cars racing for 2nd overall come into lap traffic. That's Tom Kwok, who is in 10th place overall. So he's got a pretty quick car. But now Zachary Vanier is going to catch him in a pretty bad position. Turns 3 will be a place where they'll slow right down. Look at Charles Robin close right up for 2nd spot. You can see issues for the 52 of Dean Baker as he has stopped along pit lane. There you can see the splitter on the front of the TCR car as well in pit lane. The picture-in-picture being shown by the producers here at the Grand Prix de Trois-Rivières. But look at this traffic in front of this battle for 2nd place overall, 2nd in the GT4 class. Vanier gets through, and look at that. He managed to get through before the turn. Charles Robin couldn't do the same. Tom Kwok got in between them for just a little bit, and that opened up the gap between those two cars. That is a little bit of breathing room for the teenager, Zachary Vanier. Now he's given the flash of the headlights, telling Ron Tomlinson, I'm coming, and I may catch you in turn number 2 as they work through turn number 1. Tomlinson pulls up to the outside, but still Vanier not quite there. Not quite able to make that pass. And now look, in turn number 3, that gap that he had been able to accumulate because of the pass and where he managed to pass the 55 is absolutely gone, as Charles Robin is right there. Now to the outside of the 48, and to the inside, here comes Robin. So slicing and dicing their way through lap traffic are these GT4 cars. Gary Kwok, who is a couple of laps down to the race leader in the 66, is the next one on the docket, but he'll likely just check his mirrors and pull right up out of the way. And that's exactly what he does. But Tom Kwok able to catch on to the 48 as Tomlinson had backed out of things to let the number 9 and the number 56 go through. Now look, again, it's the 66 in between, the battle for 2nd place. And look, through 1 and 2, or at least turn 1, the 66 is still going to be in the middle. Charles Robin tried to go to the outside, but did not complete that pass until he got to turn number 2. And now he gets clear down the back straightaway, but look at the gap. It's night and day now to the number 9. So Robin, unfortunately, caught up in lap traffic, has problems for the 86 of Quinnitrell. Looks like something gone wrong in the right front corner of the Hyundai i30N. So he'll stop after having a pretty good run. He did go a lap down, so some issues came to light on the number 86, and now it looks like terminal issues for the driver out of Toronto. Let's take a look at that gap now. Connor Luttrell is closing in on Jocelyn Hebert. So he is chipping away. Connor Luttrell looking for a podium position here in the TCR class. 4 minutes remaining, and the distance back between Jocelyn Hebert and Connor Luttrell is about 2.5 seconds. The leader is still Romain Monti. 13 seconds the gap at the stripe between your leader in second place, Romain Monti, and Zachary Vanier. And then now Zachary Vanier's ability to work cleaner through traffic has earned him a 2-second gap on third place, Charles Robin. So as we get into the final few laps, and you can see Monty off and on with those high beams, again indicating to the drivers in the other classes that the leader is coming through. No blue flags shown, so it's up to the drivers to be aware of their mirrors and be aware of their surroundings, who is coming. So that's why Monty is trying to indicate as early as possible to the driver ahead that the leader is en route, and just asking for, please, a little bit of space. Not quite close enough to make a move in turn number 6. Again, the 80 of Connor Luttrell is 4th in the TCR class. You can see the gap to the third place car. You saw the flash of the 89 of Jocelyn Hebert, who is 3rd in TCR class, as Romain Monti in the 57 has put a delightful drive together here today, earning himself a 13-second gap. He won race number 1 last night under the lights. Race that ended a little bit early because of a red flag situation. But now with 2 minutes to go, we've got that battle for second overall heating up once again. Charles Robin bounces off the curbs in that Mercedes AMG, chasing the McLaren into turn number 1. Hard under braking, a little wiggle from Robin in the 56 as he turns up the pressure in the final couple laps here in the Sports Car Championship Canada, presented by Michelin. In through turn number 3. Look at how close it is. Can the 56 get the power down the back straightaway? The draft does come into play, and it looks like that McLaren is just a little bit quicker in a straight line, and that's allowing Vanier some breathing room, both here in turn number 6 and in turn number 1. So 2 pretty good passing opportunities scuttled because of the power of that McLaren. So it goes to show you here in the Sports Car Championship Canada Series, the different makes are better in different areas of the track. That Mercedes better in these twisties. Look at him close right up, does Robin. On the back bumper of the 9 of Vanier, Gilles Nadeau is just ahead as the white flag is shown. And look at Nadeau, pulls to the inside in that Porsche number 61. In through turn number 1, that's 1 passing opportunity passed as the 56 can't make it sick. To the outside, Vanier protects that inside lane in turn number 2. It's going to cost him some exit speed. Robin thinks better of it, cannot make it stick in turn number 3, down the back straightaway. Again, the benefit of the draft for the 56 of Robin, but that 9 car has proven to be very, very quick in a straight line. Turn 6, another good passing opportunity, but again, not for that Mercedes here today. I would think turn number 9 is probably Robin's best passing opportunity left if he's going to get past the number 9 of Zachary Vanier in the dying minutes. Romain Monti, who's led since the drop of the green, will ease his way off turn number 11. He'll take the race win here in race number 2 for the Sports Car Championship Canada. A spirited battle comes to an end for second in the GT4 class. Zachary Vanier will hold on to the second step of the podium. Charles Robin was right there every step of the way. He'll settle for third. Looking back to the TCR class, Jeremy Daniel comes through, a flash of the headlights. He will win the second race of the weekend in the TCR class, followed home by his teammate Jean-François Evy. Jocelyn Hébert does hold off the charge of Connor Luttrell by about 1.5 seconds. So Connor Luttrell was coming, but unfortunately ran out of time. Still passed 7 cars over the course of the day did Connor Luttrell to settle for 4th. But another podium for Jocelyn Hébert, make it 26 for his career now here at the Grand Prix de Trois-Rivières. The win once again goes to a guest driver, Romain Monti, all the way from France, a factory Mercedes driver, showing the way here in race number 2 for the Sports Car Championship Canada Series. And a pretty clean run for these drivers here today. Zach Vanier, Charles Robin, your top 3 in the GT4 class. Jeremy Daniel, Jean-François Evy, and Jocelyn Hébert make up the top 3 in the TCR class. We'll get through the top 10 final running order in just a little bit as the drivers make their way back to pit lane. So Charles Robin had to really work for his win yesterday after chasing the 9 of Zachary Vanier for the most part, trying to take care of his brakes throughout that race. Today he had a little bit of an easier go. Vanier didn't get the jump that he did yesterday on the initial start. Robin led into turn number 1, and once he put in a few laps and opened up a cushion, he was able to essentially put it on cruise control as Monti jumps out to the congratulations of his crew. So welcome to Canada, Romain Monti. You're a winner once again here in the Sports Car Championship Canada Series presented by Michelin. As Romain Monti gets a couple words with the crew from TSN. Of course, this race will be shown on TSN in a couple weeks' time.
This time I could take a good start at the beginning, so it was easier for me during the stint. I didn't have to overtake the McLaren. And in the end,
and you can hear him talking about his start, and that's exactly what he said. It was a better start for him, so he didn't have to go on full attack mode, and that meant he was able to preserve some of his equipment over the course of the race. He did set fast lap of the race again here today, a 107.9. So the only driver of the entire event to dip into the 107s here in the GT4 class. As you take a look at that initial start, the 66 of Gary Kwok did not go, so some issue raised problem on the 66, and that caused some issues deeper in the field. But here's that dice for second overall. Robin almost had it in turn number 9, but it was Zachary Vanier who was able to get a good jump out of 9 on the outside, hold on to that inside lane for turn number 10, and hold on to second spot. But he was watching his mirrors for essentially the entire distance after that. Jocelyn Hébert had one shot at the 4 of Justin Di Benedetto, but Di Benedetto came back into turn number 10. Again, a similar circumstance there. But eventually, Di Benedetto locked up in turn number 8. And again, that opened the door in turn number 9. This time, Hébert was able to be in there, sticking that pass in that Honda Civic. And he held on for the rest of the distance, finishing on the final step of the podium in the TCR class. Connor Atrell, though, he had to work to get past the 4 of Justin DiBenedetto. And again, a minor issue for DiBenedetto on the exit of turn number 3. That allowed the run for the 80 down the straightaway and into turn number 6. But the gap closed again at the front of the field as Quinn Atrell had some issues on the number 86, pulling off into the runoff area, avoiding a full course caution. And it was as easy as that for the 57 of your eventual race winner, Romain Monti, overall race winner in that Mercedes AMG. And winner in the GT4 class as well. Hats off to Jeremy Daniel in the TCR, who wins in the 10. Jean-Francois Ivy, who had issues in race number 1, will be happy with a second step on the podium in the number 21. Good points day for him. And again, Jocelyn Hebert coming home third as the winners will head to the podium and get their trophies. We'll take a quick break, and we will be back with the next race of the morning. The Legends will join us here at the Grand Prix de Trois-Rivières. And one of the legends racing here today, Jacques Villeneuve, Uncle Jacques, Gilles' brother and the uncle to former Formula One world champion Jacques Villeneuve. He had problems in qualifying yesterday. Unfortunately, a tank slapper ended with him hitting the wall. Hopefully they got it fixed, and he's able to run here today. But we'll see once the cars hit the track. That's going to be the next event here on a live stream from the 52nd running of the Grand Prix de Trois-Rivières. I'm Dave Bradley. Thank you very much for joining us as we'll watch as the podium ceremonies take place for the Sports Car Championship Canada presented by Michelin. Congratulations to the winners, Romain Monti and Jeremy Daniel in the GT4 and the TCR class here today.
Mesdames et messieurs, nous allons maintenant procéder à la cérémonie protocolaire de la course Sports Car Canada Championship. Pour honorer les 6 pilotes, soit les 3 en touring, les 3 en GT4, accueillons un vétéran du circuit de Trois-Rivières, un champion des années 80, M. Peter Lockhart. En 3e position touring, de Bécancour, son 2e podium de la fin de semaine, son 26e en carrière, Jocelyn Hebert. En 2e place touring, Jean-François Hevet. Et le gagnant en touring, son 2e podium de la fin de semaine, sa 2e première position, Jérémy Daniel. Avec M. Lockhart, nous enchaînons avec la classe GT4. En 3e position, Charles Robin. En 2e position, in second place, Zachary Vanier. Et le gagnant pour une deuxième journée consécutive. Un pilote français dans la tradition des Patrick Depailler et Patrick Tambay. Accueillons Romain Monti. Ceci complète la cérémonie protocolaire de la course Sports Car Canada Championship. Restez avec nous pour la prochaine épreuve au programme dans la catégorie Légende modifiée.
Tania, tu l'entends-tu?
Eh bien, on est au podium et les gagnants sont tout près de nous. On va tenter de joindre Romain Monti, qui est le grand vainqueur de cette épreuve. Romain, j'ai envie de t'entendre parce que deuxième victoire en 2 jours, comment est-ce qu'on sent?
C'est le week-end parfait pour nous, on ne pouvait pas espérer mieux. Hein. C'est ma première fois au Grand Prix Trois-Rivières. Donc j'ai aimé découvrir cette piste, tracé urbain pas facile. Pour doubler, c'est tough, hein, comme on dit ici, c'est tough. Et donc là, c'était pas une course si évidente.
Yeah! Tellement content d'être... Wow! Tellement heureux d'être ici au GP3R. Tellement heureux d'être ici au GP3R. Et là, je regarde un peu autour. On a des fans, des gens, des sourires. Content d'avoir le retour à la normale. Pensez 2 secondes. Le circuit a 2,43 km de long. Ça veut dire qu'il y a du filage, hein, s'il vous plaît. Ça veut dire qu'il y a beaucoup de caméras pour surveiller tout ça. Et là, tu te dis, pourquoi il y a des caméras tant que ça? Est-ce que ça sert juste pour le côté en direct, juste pour le côté live, juste pour la transmission sur les postes sportifs? Non, non, non. Les officiels aussi peuvent se servir de ces images. Et là, j'étais en train de parler du filage.